This is a question aimed at getting you to focus not on your final days, but on your entire life. This question is asking us, what did you do with your life? And not based on your own opinion, but on the opinion of others. What would they say about how you lived your life? Ooh, child. Your spouse, if you have one, your kids, your parents, your relatives, and your friends and associates and your neighbors? What would you do if you knew you only had a few hours to live? A version of this question has been asked over and over. People generally say things like, oh, I'd call my loved ones and tell them that I love them. I'd go out to eat and have my favorite meal, like fried chicken, mac and cheese, and collard greens. I'd go and check off some of the things on my bucket list. I would spend all of my money. Many people say that they would do things that they were afraid to do before they knew that they were about to die. In fact, entire movie plots have been created and been very successful, might I add, at the box office, completely based off of what we would do if we knew that we were going to die soon. Now, years ago, a facilitator gave a different spin on this question during a teacher workshop. Yes, I used to be an elementary school teacher, when he asked, what do you want people to say about you at your funeral? Now, obviously, there is little wiggle room here. You can't go and do something on your bucket list and say something to your loved ones, I love you, to your spouse or your kids. This is a question aimed at getting you to focus not on your final days, but on your entire life. This question is asking us, what did you do with your life? And not based on your own opinion, but on the opinion of others. What would they say about how you lived your life? Ooh, child. Your spouse, if you have one, your kids, your parents, your relatives, and your friends and associates and your neighbors? What would they have to say about you? And then would it be consistent? Maybe some people would have really great stories and illustrations to share, and then others not so great, depending on the version of you that they happen to experience on that particular day. Personally, I hope my family and friends would say she was a loving mother, a devoted wife, and a faithful friend. I also hope that some of the achievements on my bucket list would have been accomplished and listed in my funeral program. But when I consider this question in light of Jesus's behavior on Holy Thursday, I am compelled to rethink my ending. Y'all, Jesus knew his time was limited. He could have used the day before his death as an opportunity to recount all of the miracles that he had performed. He could have reviewed some highlights from the parables and the sermons that he wanted them to remember. He could have listed and delineated all of the people that he healed. I healed her, and I healed him, and I healed that little child. But instead of making the end of his life about himself, he did the complete opposite. He made it about others. John 13:4-5 says, so he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. When Jesus removed his outer garment, revealing the robe closest to his skin, he demonstrated a level of vulnerability that was just unusual. Actually, it's unusual today. I know it was then. His outer robe also identified him as a rabbi. But here in the moment, he exchanged that title for that of slave. It was the role of a slave wash the feet of his wealthy master when he returned home from a journey. Washing feet was not the job of a savior, but Jesus willingly did it for the man who would betray him and the men who would disown him. He washed their dirty, smelly feet as a selfless act of love and servitude. With a basin of water and a towel wrapped around his waist, Jesus washed feet that walked everywhere in open-toed sandals. In his final moments with the disciples, Jesus modeled the way he wanted to be remembered, not as a king expecting to be served, but as a slave humbly serving. Which brings to mind this question: do I want to be remembered as a servant? Do I want to be remembered as someone who found her life by losing it? At the end of Jesus' life, he modeled how we should live out all of our days in humble service to those around us. Just look at the impact that his act of service has made on humanity. As we approach Resurrection Sunday, millions of believers around the world will celebrate his life of servitude that single-handedly changed the eternal destiny for everyone that chooses to place their faith in him. Accolades, accomplishments, compliments, and success cannot compare to the lives that have been impacted and are continuously impacted by Jesus' choice to serve. May we choose to follow his example, and may there be people whose lives are greatly impacted for Christ's sake because of it.